What did Helena's Tapestry reveal about Rhaenyra? House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 8, Explained, Spoiler Warning. This video contains major spoilers for House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 8, including Helaena Targaryen's final moments, her prophetic visions, Rhaenyra's future, and the ending of the Season 3 finale. If you haven't watched the finale yet, this is your warning. One of the most mysterious moments in the House of the Dragon Season 3 finale happens after Helaena Targaryen finishes working on her tapestry. At first, it may look like nothing more than another strange piece of artwork. But when you look closely, the tapestry appears to reveal something horrifying. It shows Helena's own death. And alongside it, we see an image connected to Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne. But Rhaenyra isn't shown as a triumphant queen enjoying her victory. She appears wounded, surrounded by blood, and the destruction of the dragons. So what exactly was Helaena trying to reveal? And did Helaena know that Rhaenyra's future would end in tragedy? Let's break it down. Throughout Season 3, Helaena has been creating her mysterious tapestry. She sits quietly and stitches images that seem completely disconnected from one another. At first, these images are difficult to understand. But as the story progresses, we realize that Helaena isn't simply making art. She is recording her visions. Helaena is a dreamer. She sees things that haven't happened yet. And unlike ordinary dreams, some of her visions appear to connect directly to the future of the Targaryen family. Her tapestry, therefore, becomes almost like a visual diary of everything she has seen. And that makes the final image incredibly important, because Helaena leaves behind something that appears to show what is going to happen to Rhaenyra. The first major image is Helaena herself. We see the imagery associated with her fall and death. This is particularly disturbing because it suggests that Helaena knew her own fate before it happened. She wasn't simply creating random symbols. She was stitching the future. And then we see Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is connected to the Iron Throne. At first glance, this might look like a victory. After all, Rhaenyra has spent the entire story fighting for that throne. She believes it is her birthright. She has sacrificed her family, her allies, and eventually much of her own humanity to claim it. But Helena's image doesn't look like a celebration. Rhaenyra appears wounded. There is blood, there is fire, and the dragons surrounding the scene create an ominous atmosphere. This is important because the Iron Throne itself has always been dangerous. Rhaenyra believes that sitting on it will prove that she has won. But Helena's vision suggests something different. Rhaenyra may get the throne, but getting the throne doesn't mean she gets peace. It doesn't mean she survives. And it certainly doesn't mean that the Targaryen family survives intact. Instead, the throne becomes part of Rhaenyra's destruction. This is one of the central ideas of the Dance of the Dragons. Everyone is fighting for the Iron Throne, but the throne destroys almost everyone who comes close to it. And Helaena appears to understand that better than anyone. Her visions show her that victory and suffering are connected. Rhaenyra can become queen, but she will pay an enormous price. And this is where Helena's tapestry becomes a warning.
The fascinating question is whether Helaena intended Rhaenyra to see it. The finale strongly suggests that Helaena deliberately leaves her work behind. She stops working on the tapestry, and Rhaenyra later discovers it. That timing is extremely important. Helaena doesn't simply disappear and leave behind an unfinished piece of art by accident. She appears to understand that Rhaenyra is going to find it. It is almost like a final message, a message that Helaena cannot deliver directly, because Helaena knows that Rhaenyra may not understand her words, but perhaps she will understand the images. And that is one of the most heartbreaking things about their relationship. Rhaenyra has spent much of the war trying to understand Helaena, but Helaena has been seeing the future all along. She knows things Rhaenyra doesn't. She knows that the war will continue. She knows that the Iron Throne will not bring the peace Rhaenyra expects. And she knows that her own story is coming to an end. So the tapestry becomes Helena's final attempt to communicate. But there is an even deeper meaning. The image of Rhaenyra on the throne appears connected to blood and fire. That can be interpreted in several ways. First, it may represent the violence surrounding Rhaenyra's rule. She will sit on the Iron Throne, but only after enormous bloodshed. Second, the blood could represent Rhaenyra's own injuries. The Iron Throne is famously dangerous. Its blades can cut the person sitting on it, and Rhaenyra's relationship with the throne becomes increasingly painful. Third, the blood can represent the destruction of the Targaryen family. Rhaenyra may technically win the throne for a time, but the war destroys the family she is trying to protect. And then there is the fire. Fire is one of the strongest symbols in the Targaryen story. Dragons represent power. They represent the dynasty. They represent the reason the Targaryens believe they are destined to rule. But in the Dance of the Dragons, that same fire becomes the force that destroys them. The dragons burn armies. They burn cities. They kill family members. And eventually, the dragons themselves become victims. Helena's tapestry appears to capture that contradiction. The Targaryens have dragons, but the dragons cannot save them from themselves. Rhaenyra can sit on the throne, but she cannot escape the consequences of the war. And Helaena appears to know this. That is why the tapestry is so important. It isn't simply predicting Rhaenyra's death. It is predicting the cost of Rhaenyra's victory. And that distinction matters. Rhaenyra's story isn't simply about whether she gets the throne. She does. The real question is what happens after she gets it. And Helena's vision suggests that the answer is devastation. This also connects to Helena's earlier visions. Throughout the series, she has spoken in strange phrases. She has mentioned things that initially seem meaningless, but later, those words become connected to actual events. Her visions are rarely straightforward. They are symbolic. They require interpretation. The tapestry works the same way. Helaena doesn't simply write, "Rhaenyra will sit on the throne and suffer." Instead, she creates an image: blood, fire, the throne, dragons, death. The viewer has to put those pieces together. And that is exactly how Helena's visions have always worked. She doesn't give people a simple answer. She gives them a warning. The problem is that people don't always listen. This is especially true of Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is determined. She believes in her claim. She believes she is fighting for justice. And after losing so much, she becomes increasingly unwilling to give up. Helena's tapestry, therefore, presents a painful possibility. What if Rhaenyra had listened? What if she had understood that the throne itself was part of the trap? Could she have avoided some of what happens next? Or was the future already fixed? That question is at the heart of Helena's character. She can see the future, but she cannot necessarily change it. And this is what makes her vision so tragic. Imagine knowing that something terrible is going to happen and being unable to stop it. Helaena appears to live with that knowledge. She sees her own death. She sees Rhaenyra suffering. She sees the destruction of the dragons. And she still has to live through the present. That is why the tapestry feels like more than a prediction. It feels like Helena's final acceptance of what is coming. And when Rhaenyra finds it, the audience gets another important clue. Rhaenyra may finally understand that Helaena has been trying to communicate with her. But by then, it may already be too late. The war has gone too far. Too many people have died, too many dragons have been unleashed, and too much blood has already been spilled. The tapestry, therefore, becomes a warning that arrives at the worst possible time. Rhaenyra may understand the message, but understanding the future doesn't necessarily give her the ability to change it. And that is one of the darkest ideas in House of the Dragon. The characters are constantly trying to control their destiny, but the more they fight against fate, the more they seem to move toward it. Daemon experiences visions. Helaena experiences visions. Alice River sees the future. And yet the dance continues. The future keeps moving forward. The tapestry also creates a powerful contrast between Helaena and Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra wants the throne. Helaena doesn't. Rhaenyra is willing to fight for power. Helaena is trying to survive the consequences of that power struggle. Rhaenyra looks toward the future as something she can change. Helaena seems to understand that some parts of the future cannot be avoided. And that makes Helaena one of the most tragic characters in the entire story. She knows what is coming, but she cannot stop it. And perhaps she cannot even save herself. That is why the final tapestry is so powerful. It shows Helena's death. It shows Rhaenyra's future. And it connects both women through the same war. One dies because of the war. The other is destroyed by the consequences of the war. And the Iron Throne sits at the center of it all. The object everyone wants becomes the symbol of everything they lose. So, what did Helena's tapestry reveal about Rhaenyra? It appears to reveal that Rhaenyra's victory will not be the happy ending she expects. She may sit on the Iron Throne, but she will be surrounded by blood, fire, death, and destruction. The tapestry suggests that the throne itself becomes part of her suffering. And Helaena seems to know this before Rhaenyra does. That is why leaving the tapestry behind is so important. It is Helena's final message. She cannot change the future, but perhaps she can show Rhaenyra what is coming. And whether Rhaenyra understands the warning is now one of the biggest questions going forward.
Was Helaena trying to warn Rhaenyra? Did she deliberately leave the tapestry for her to find? And does the image of Rhaenyra covered in blood represent her own wounds, the deaths caused by her rule, or both? Let me know your theory in the comments. If you enjoyed this House of the Dragon Season 3 finale explanation, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more spoilers, theories, character explanations, and ending breakdowns. Helaena may be gone, but the message she left behind could become one of the most important clues to Rhaenyra's future. And the most terrifying part is this: Helaena may have already known how the story ends.